of you, after the journey that you've all shared with making the film, and really the journey that it is to take a film on the awards journey itself, what does it mean to each of you to sort of cap it the way that you have and the way that you are, and to experience those first career Oscar nominations? Celine, we'll start with you.
Sorry. I feel like I still remember the standing in the green room with these three of them, and also our cast and some of our crew waiting for the movie premiere at Sundance. I remember really feeling like we're about to tell everyone your secret. There's a part of it where I think that it was such an amazing moment where I think everything was so complete and certain about what the journey of this movie was going to be and how the audience was going to receive this film. And I think that sharing this movie at Sundance was such a special experience, I would say, that we, I think we all agree that from there it's been nothing but every step of the way of complete joy. I think this is the last Q&A that we're doing. So I mean, thinking that way, I feel like it's so special to talk to you guys. And I think that the main feeling I have for it is that like this being my first film that I ever made, and it being this journey where I got to experience from the festival to the release to the awards to like here today, I just feel like that whole thing was such an amazing crash course in how a film lives in the world, and also it being it's such an exceptional feeling for the nominations and all the everything, and the audience to be here for my first movie, and I just feel so lucky to have done it too. Yeah.
Christine, can you?
Sorry, I think this is caught under my chair. So this is, for Killer, this is our first Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. And you know, for a young producer like myself, this is so encouraging. You know, really gives me confidence in the rest of my career.
That's great. That's so great to hear.
I won't be funny because I'm not so funny, but what I'll say about it is the amazing experience of seeing how many of you are seeing it for the first time, and the movie premiered at Sundance a year ago and was in theaters in June, and just the energy of the connection with the audience that has not abated at all in all of these months is the thing I'm loving the most. Just waves of people who are strangers like you who are seeing it and loving it, and people who know me who email me, I just saw it on an airplane, or it's back in theaters because of the Oscars and I went to see it, keeps coming and keeps happening. And that's a rare, special thing, and it's making me feel encouraged to keep trying making these kinds of movies that might connect and might live theatrically, because there's a lot of, you know, discouragement about that right now, but this is bucking the trend, so we feel great about that.
I think all I can add is you don't take these things for granted. I've been a part of movies that never filled a theater like this, let alone a year later, and still having people come out and be interested. And I've also never been a part of something that people came up to me and said that they connected to it in this way, and it's constantly surprising, so it's so rewarding. And on a practical level, award season has taught me how to steam a shirt and like they moved talent I didn't have, so I learned a lot.
Celine, I know you were waiting to come in outside. You obviously know your film beat by beat, second by second, and you were blocking the door. Nobody in here would know this, but Celine was blocking the door so nobody would be able to leave the last crucial minutes of the film. And like dancing to the beautiful score you have. What is it like for you still to experience this with an audience? What moments excite you to see people react to? What moments are you always still curious to see people react to?
Well, I think that the audience is the audience, and the audience, especially the ones who are encountering it for the first time or encountering it for many, many times as if it's the first time. To me, it's like that's what really keeps this film alive. And I think that in the audience, that this movie stays alive for me. Because I think that the thing that my favorite feedback, my favorite thing that the audience member says to me is when they say, I actually realized as I was watching Past Lives that I needed this movie. And I think that it is just such a complete honor to know that even one person in the world has felt like they needed this movie. Is what an amazing thing to have made something that somebody needs, you know. And I think that part of it has been completely moving, and it gives me energy and every day to sort of show for the movie and believe in the movie and be so grateful for the audiences who feel that they needed this movie, who want this movie.
And Pam, you mentioned that you've heard from people who've seen it on an airplane. Is it nice to know that you've made people cry, and ugly cry probably, in their airplane seats up in the sky? What's that feel like?
It's great. It's I love to ugly cry in there. I'm a crier. I cried the very first cut of this movie. It was I just like to cry in movie theaters.
I've seen some commercials that made me cry, so I really feel that, you know. Well done, you know? A good story is a good story. We have some amazing performances in the film that I wanted to call out. Greta Lee as Nora Moon, and can you believe, I mean, it is, somebody that has watched Greta Lee for decades in amazing, amazing roles. This is her first lead role that she has gotten to play. And that's kind of inconceivable in some ways, but what does it mean to all of you to be part of enabling something like that and knowing how much that, how big a moment that is for a performer's career such as Greta's?
Well, I think that the thing that I felt throughout making this movie is that Greta Lee is my partner in making this movie, right? Because this movie is about a woman's discovery of herself. And for me to have gone through my own discovery of myself, which is that I'm a filmmaker, and I'm gonna make movies forever. It was such a complete self-revelation to me, and while that was happening, I know that for Greta, she was also having a self-revelation herself. So I always knew that I had a partner in her in our journey together in making this film because we were actually going through the same thing. You know, like we were finding ourselves in this character Nora, but in different ways. Yeah.
And for producers, and especially at Killer Films, you have such a track record of working with first-time directors. What is it about that? I mean, obviously you also work with directors who've made more than one film, but like, what is the secret to finding those people, the special people like Celine, who come from the stage, who come from playwriting, and recognizing the vision that they have cinematically to then become a filmmaker?
Well, it's different in every case, but I think in this case, the script was written so cinematically. So before we even met Celine, it was clear on the page, this was a movie, this was a storyteller who was thinking in cinema. And then generally, it's about, can this person communicate a clear vision to 30 to 100 people every day who are coming at you with questions about your story from a million different angles. And there was simply no doubt that Celine had that ability, so that we were off to the races.
And she's soon going to be not a first-time director.
I heard that. I heard that there might be a reunion of sorts for Celine, your next film. We'll get to that later. Celine, take us back to sort of the germination of Past Lives as a film concept, even just as a story that struck you, that you wanted to tell. There's a scene, for those of you who just saw the movie, which is everyone, there's a scene that you will, I mean, like, for me, it's so cool to learn that some of these moments were taken from real life, were inspired directly from real life experiences you had, but take us into the real life bar scene and how that experience had you thinking about all of these ideas and about yourself and about your past selves.
Well, I think the whole film really came from this pretty extraordinary feeling I had in this bar this one night, right? So I was sitting in this bar in East Village in New York City, sitting between my childhood friend who had come to visit me from Korea and my husband that I lived with in New York City. And I was translating between these two people as they were trying to communicate because they don't speak each other's language, and I speak both their languages. And as I was translating between these two cultures and language, I realized also that I'm translating between two parts of my own self and my own history. And there was a funny feeling of like, I feel like I'm sitting here actually now having a drink with two people who care about me, but I'm actually sitting here with my past, the present, and the future all in the same room and having a drink. And I think that feeling sort of stuck with me. I remember thinking that this was maybe a thing that I'll work on, maybe. So it was in my maybe pile for maybe a thing to work on for a long time until I realized it kept bothering me about it, and I kept thinking about that night. And one of the things that I do when I have an idea that I think maybe could be a thing, but I'm not sure, is that I tell that story to some of my friends. And when I told the story to some of my friends, what I learned is that even though not all my friends are coming from the same place that I come from in terms of my history, but every single one of them had a story of a night that felt like this for them. And they also, and in our conversation about it, I think that we start to talk about things like what it's like to leave a piece of yourself behind in a place or time, and most importantly, in a person, right? There's some people in our lives who hold on to a piece of you that you leave behind, and they love that person, and they care for that person, but you have left that part behind. And then sometimes you're faced with that person. And I think that in that conversation, I felt like I became deeper friends with all my friends that I told the story to. And that made me feel like maybe this is worth writing a script about. But then I feel like just from there, I think that the whole thing sort of began. And that was the inspiration. That was very real life. And then the rest of it was turning into a movie.
So I'm sure a lot of people have asked you how much of this is fictionally, where the departure happens for you between your real life inspiration and the fictional life of these characters.
Well, I think that in turning this very subjective experience into something objective, which is a script, and then to turn it into something that is a movie, which is something that you're doing with Readily, with Teo, and with like hundreds of cast and crew, I think that by the time that I was making the movie, I think I was feeling very much like I'm just making a movie in a way. But something that I really feel is that the goal of the project has always been that I'm trying to describe as accurately and as deeply as I can what it feels like to be a person for me. And I think that the hope is that if I am describing it accurately, and of course this is more about the truth of it, more than whatever facts of things, but it's more about turning it into the essence of the film. But the hope is that the audience is going to also recognize the human in that. And I think that's always been the goal for it. So the movie is really personal, but not necessarily even in ways where you can align the facts. It's a little bit more about like the way that, for example, Nora and Hezon see each other for the first time in 24 years in the park, right? So when I'm talking about that with the actors, the thing that you're also talking about is like, well, and this was in the script too, which is that like, well, you're actually looking at each other like you guys are a ghost. And I think that we all kind of recognize that feeling of like seeing someone and feeling like that person is a ghost to me in a way. And I think that those are the kind of personal feelings that I think ended up in the film that is so much more it's much deeper than just being like, well, this, here's my biography, here's the film,
At one point, did you tell your childhood friend that you had written this movie? What was that? What was that reaction like?
It was very proud.
For your producers, I would love for you all to take us into the experience of reading Celine's script for the first time. Were there specific moments that still stand out to you from the script experience of reading it that you were particularly moved by or wanted to see brought to life?
It doesn't really work that way for me. I think scripts, and we read a lot of scripts we read so many scripts that aren't good, that when one really just like rises to the top, and some of that is just the experience of forgetting it's a script and really kind of sinking into the story and wanting to know what happens next, and that really happened with Celine's script within the first few pages.
I guess I do remember one thing very specifically, which is at the moment when the Uber is arriving. On the page, I think this is true, Celine, it says the Uber will come, it will take 2 full minutes, and I'm really gonna take 2 full minutes, it felt like in some way she expressed that in screen
And
direction.
wrote that it has to be actually 2 minutes.
And I remember thinking, wow, she really knows what she wants this to look and feel like, because I know 2 minutes in screen time is a really long time. Like, okay, let's keep reading, see what happens. It was really distinctive moment in the reading of the script that was notable.
It ended in 45 seconds. Can I talk about it? Yeah, because I feel like the part of it is that the 2 minutes is time is so subjective. So I remember, because we were all there, it's like I was holding on to the monitor as we were waiting for the Uber, and I was I tasked myself to cue the Uber, and nobody on set knew when the Uber was gonna come, including the actors, and I didn't really know either, because it had to be something so subjective, where it has to feel like 2 minutes, and then it also has to feel like it's too freaking long and we need it to end. But also when the car comes, it has to be like, no, 10 seconds. So, which is such a contradictory feeling, and it had to sort of go with the rhythm that was like in me. It was a rhythm that had to happen so subjectively that I remember just like us, I was looking at the monitor, everyone's waiting, my AD's looking at my hand to see when we're gonna say go to the car, and like I didn't know when it was gonna come, but nobody knew, including the actors.
What was your moment?
Oh yeah. I read the script in a really particular moment in my life where a lot of change had happened professionally, personally, logistically. We were all still coming out of COVID, and so when I met Celine for the first time, we hadn't met before. I felt, oh, you wrote this like just for me. Like, how did you know? This is like exactly the thing that I'm having, and is this the right path in my life of maximum happiness? There were all these things that I connected to, and I think that however many years later from that meeting, you have that effect, and the movie has that effect kind of on everyone, where you go, oh, that's exactly what that was like, or that when I moved, it felt like that, when that relationship ended, or when I made that choice, I wasn't really sure. People connect to all of that. I think it's sort of the magic trick of the movie.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the amazing things about this film is you talk to different people from all different backgrounds, and there is some way that everybody has found that is this something that you have long thought about? Life. How did I get here? Especially as a child, an immigrant experience. I think it's very resonant with a lot of people. But was this something that has been on your mind for a long time?
Well, I think that to me the existential question of the film, or the existential part of the story, is of course the thing that I think that I live with, because the way that my immigration was such a huge leap of like skipping whole Pacific Ocean, learning a whole different language and becoming part of a completely different culture. But I actually found that the way that the audiences connect to the film is so much about that very specific universal feeling. Because I think that I often hear about I would often talk about the sort of the ending scene when Nora is walking away and crying. And the truth is that Nora is crying because she just got to say goodbye to a 12-year-old girl that she left behind. So when you see that scene where you flash back when the Uber comes and there's a flashback and we go at the final scene, we go back to their childhood selves and they're saying goodbye. We decided to light that scene in the dark because it's meant to imply that these kids have been waiting to get their goodbye for 24 years. So they were waiting in that corner until this night to get to say goodbye because they never got to. And the truth is that this movie is in 3 goodbyes, and the first 2 goodbyes are failures, right? Because the very first goodbye, when they say goodbye to each other when they're 12, it's because they are too young that they don't even know the meaning of their goodbye. Because we think when we're 12 when we say goodbye to someone, we don't know what it means that we're never gonna see them maybe. And then of course, when they're in their youth, in their 20s, when they say goodbye there, they hurt each other, they think there's another chance. It's very complicated, but it doesn't really stick. And it's only when they get to say goodbye at the very end there that they're able to then move forward. They actually get to say goodbye to the 12-year-old selves that never got a goodbye. So what an amazing gift that Hesam gave both of them. That Hesam got to say goodbye to a 12-year-old girl as a 12-year-old boy. And Nora got to, I don't think Nora knew, by the way, that she needed to say goodbye to a 12-year-old girl until her friend came to visit her. And I think she's got to say goodbye to her 12-year-old self, which she never got to do. And the other person who gets a happy ending is Arthur. And because Arthur, as you know, loves his wife and really wants to know her and even wants to know her language and wants to know her better. And what an amazing gift for him, too, that he gets to meet his wife as a 12-year-old girl, right? Which is something that he never got to have before as a visitor.
I've heard you sort of describing these 2 major relationships of Nora's as in terms of a donut and a donut hole. And I wonder if you would share that because I loved it.
Well, I think that it's just more like, I think that was the joke I just had. But I think that the main thing is that it's like there is a part of her that, can only be fully unlocked when both of them are there. So to me, what was really important is that this movie might look like it's a love triangle, but it's really not, because it is about 3 people who are going to do their very best to be adults with each other. And something that was really important to me, especially in depicting masculinity, and what I like about masculinity, is that these 2 men, when they're left alone with each other, they say to each other that instead of like getting into a fight or something, they say to each other that, well, actually, you're not eating in this way. And to me, that is so much about, and in that scene, John Cale's song plays. And the song is, You Know More Than I Know. And that is what's going on with these 2 men, right? Because Hesam has keys to Nora that Arthur doesn't have, and Arthur has keys to Nora that Hesam doesn't have. And only when both of them are there can Nora be unlocked in full. And instead of these 2 men being mad at each other, fighting each other, or being resentful of each other and trying to wrestle each other with the keys, what they're going to do instead is to make room for each other. And for them to say, it's like, actually, by you being here, she can be whole. We can make her whole together. And in that way, you're not eating in that way. So I think that really was that's the heart of it, right? She's sort of complete. Because these 2 men decided that they're going to be good to her. They're going to be good to each other.
A grown-up romance. I would love to take us into the production process, the filming experience. What were some of the unique logistics of this project that you found, or producers that you found yourself helping to enable in order for Celine to make the movie the way she wanted to make it?
That it was in Korean, and that it was speak Korean was often it was funny for me how late it occurred to me that it would be a logistic challenge, because you have your sides, your little printout of the scene work of the day, you're on the monitor and you're trying to figure out where to contribute and when to be out of the way. And then as soon as they start going, you're like, oh, I lost them. Like if you're not following along like the beach ball on like lyrics, you lose them in the scene. You don't see the thing. So I've never been more attentive in my life to the monitor, because if I didn't catch them right at the beginning of the scene, I wouldn't know where they were.
I'm sorry, did you just make a karaoke reference? A language I can understand. Thank you. Oh yes, we're all going to karaoke to this, right? Okay, good. I know the place. But yeah, you did. That's one thing that's really interesting to think about is you partnered with the Korean producers and CJ, the company CJ, to shoot a lot of your film. And I also understand, Celine, that you yourself, who are bilingual, integrated that into your directorial sort of approach to working with your actors.
Yeah, I mean, what was really great is I feel like, I mean, it's my first movie, so I think that I was figuring it out, but I really found that it was so wild that sometimes when I have to give notes to an actor, the whole set hears it, hears the note. And I felt like there was something about that I was like, it's hard because your actors are being asked to do incredibly vulnerable work, and I'm giving them a note, and the whole crew and everybody who's on set is going to hear what the note is, and they're going to be looking at her and be like, are you going to do the note? So I think one of the tricks that I used with the bilingualism, and then of course the script is bilingual, and is that I would, in New York, I would talk to actors in Korean, so that it would be a little secret I had with the actors. And in Korea, I would speak to the actor Teo in English, so that it could be a secret from everyone else too.
Which is interesting because Teo grew up in Germany.
Yes.
Actually,
He speaks English and Korean with German accent.
And is it correct? John Magaro, who plays Arthur, actually speaks a little Korean.
Because he's married to a Korean American woman, so he actually spoke a bit of Korean when I met him. And I don't know how many people speak Korean in this room, but his Korean is very bad. His Korean is very bad. And there was a moment where he asked me, he was like, I can get better in Korean. Like, I'll work on it. I'll get a little better. And I was like, no. I want to be exactly as bad as that. The truth is that this movie is not about someone who's fluent in Korean. It's a movie about someone who's trying to learn Korean. Right? So, like that moment where Hesen and Arthur meet each other for the first time, what's so meaningful about that scene is that the first thing that happens is that Arthur says hello to Hesung in bad Korean, and then Hesung responds to Arthur in bad English. They just say hello to each other. And what a way that we're going to set the stage for how their rest of the night is going to go. They're going to speak in a language that makes them feel vulnerable, so that the other person can feel comfortable, right? So I think there is something. So there was a really funny thing where John was like, I can do a lot better in Korean, I promise. And I was like, no. He was like, yeah. And meanwhile, Teo, he speaks better English than you can see in this film, and he was like, this is exactly the kind of Korean person speaking English you should be. And I was like, yeah, maybe worse.
That is acting. There's something really briefly I want to take. We've spoken, we're going to wrap up really shortly, but there's one scene that is so beautiful, and you and your cinematographer, Shabir Kirchner, do such beautiful work in your compositions. You don't even need to say anything out loud for your compositions to speak so loudly in your framing. And I wonder if you take us into how crucial it was to find the right street, just the right street for that final walk.
So the task at hand that my location manager and Shabir, my cinematographer, had was to find a street that has to feel, it's contradictory, that has to feel ordinary. Tourists wouldn't even recognize it. Just like a street that is a New Yorker street where someone would say like, oh, I used to live there, that kind of a street, while being beautiful, stunning, perfect shoot. Has to speak for the whole film. So it's this amazing thing where it's like, because again, finding the street was such a subjective thing, it actually meant that my location manager and my DP was walking around East Village every night after office hours, just like for weeks, just looking for the street, just to try to find inspiration. And I remember Shabby called me and he asked me, he was like, "What? I think I found the street." And I remember being like, "I believe you, I can't wait to see it." And I went to see it and we could just see and it's again a subjective feeling that we can all agree on, that it is both totally ordinary street and somehow it will be pretty extraordinary. And I remember that there was a question that Shabby asked me right away as we were just looking at the street, knowing that we're going to lay 150 feet of track and shoot the street. We knew that it was going to happen, and we were just talking about the technical part of it, and he asked me a practical question, and he asked me which direction is Nora and Hezong going to walk, which direction are they going to walk to the Uber, and in which direction is she going to walk home. And that unlocked the visual language of the whole film, because I realized it's a horizontal line and that it is a timeline. And Hezon and Nora, of course, should walk from right to left because they're walking towards the past, right? And then they wait for the Uber and they dwell in this moment in their past for 2 minutes. And then, 2 minutes in the film. They wait for two minutes in this moment and they just dwell in it. And in these 2 minutes, of course, both of them turn to each other and they see into each other what this moment in the past is. And then the car comes and the Uber has to, of course, come and take Hezon away into the past. And this was something that was, I would say, just like movie gods showing up for us, where there was a little piece of wind that I couldn't believe. We were all freaking out because it was so exciting. There was a little piece of wind that started to blow Nora's skirt, into the past. Right? And we didn't have a wind machine, just a hinge, And it was like, this is how you should shoot this. So, and then she has to then hold for 1 minute, and then he's going to turn and she's going to start walking towards her present and future against the wind. And at the end of it is going to be her home and her husband. And then the very final shot of the film, which is Hezon being driven away to JFK. Again, the direction that he gets to go is from left to right, into his own present and his own future. So this, figuring this out, which came from a practical question, then became the visual language for the whole film. Then we always knew which direction the actor should walk. We always knew what the horizontal lines meant. So I think that was one of those amazing things where finding the street was the inspiration for how we really needed to shoot it. And now it's a fundamental part of the whole film.
And now fans will go track that exact street block down for the past lives of work.
By the way, if you search on Google Maps in New York, you search street from past lives, like the garage, like the door from past lives, like it literally will. Also Google bar from past lives, and the bar will come up. It's Holiday Cocktail Lounge.
Okay, this bar, Holiday Cocktail Lounge, New York City, come from shout out to them. Do they have a past lives cocktail yet?
I really think they should.
No brainer.
I heard a lot of people come in though, and they fight for those seats. That's so cool. It's really cool. They really fight for those. They're like, oh, actually, I want this. And they like ask the bartenders to take a photo. So nice.
Ask strangers to sit across and talk and whisper about them. Okay, lastly, here's our last very important question. This next project, and tell us a little bit about this reunion that will be the 5th.
So we were gonna help so much I think this speak for all of us. I think
I think that's it.
All right. You know what? I don't mind waiting. I don't mind waiting.
I just want to make the movie first. But I want to love them, and I can't wait to share them.
Well, you have a few more things to do first, so we'll all be rooting for you as award season closes out.